The phone wouldn't stop ringing. I stared at it from across my kitchen counter, watching my mother's name flash on the screen for the third time in 20 minutes. My coffee had gone cold. Outside, the city hummed with its usual Thursday morning chaos, but inside my apartment, everything felt still. Dangerous still. Because when Lorraine Rhodes calls 3 times before 9 a.m., someone's bleeding money. I picked up on the fourth ring. "Gavin," she said, her voice wrapped in that practiced elegance she wore like armor. "Your father and I need you to come for dinner this Sunday. It's important. No hello. No small talk. Straight to business." I set my mug down carefully. "What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong," she said too quickly. "We just need to discuss something as a family. Your brother will be here too." There it was. The real reason. Mason. My stomach tightened. "Mom, what did he do?" A pause stretched between us, filled with all the words she wasn't saying. In that silence, I could already see it. Mason's boyish grin. My father's red face. The same old script we'd been acting out since we were kids. "Just come, dear," she finally said. "We'll talk then." The line went dead before I could refuse. I stood there holding my phone, staring at nothing. 20 years of being the responsible son. 20 years of watching my brother stumble from one disaster to the next while I cleaned up the mess. 20 years of hearing Gavin will handle it like it was my job title. Hi viewers, kindly tell us where you're watching from and what time it is. Warm welcome to the family, enjoy the story. Sunday came too fast. I drove through the old neighborhood where I grew up, past the manicured lawns and houses that looked like they'd been copied from a magazine about successful people. Everything here screamed money and order. But I'd learned a long time ago that the prettier the outside, the uglier the rot underneath. My parents' house sat at the end of Oakmont Drive like a monument to everything they valued. White columns. Perfect hedges. A circular driveway that could fit 6 cars. When I was 12, my father told me this house was proof of what hard work could buy. When I was 25 and starting my own business, he told me I'd never afford anything half this nice. Funny how things change. I parked and sat in my car for a moment, hands tight on the steering wheel. Through the front window, I could see movement. Shadows passing back and forth. My chest felt heavy, like someone had stacked bricks on my lungs. The front door opened before I could knock. My mother stood there in her usual pearls and pressed blouse, but her smile didn't reach her eyes. "Gavin," she said, kissing my cheek. "Thank you for coming." The house smelled like roasted chicken and desperation. Mason was already at the dining table, slumped in his chair like a teenager who'd been grounded. His shirt was wrinkled, his tie loose. Dark circles hung under his eyes. He looked up when I walked in and gave me a weak smile that died before it reached his mouth. "Hey, big brother," he said. I didn't answer. My father stood near the window, arms crossed, jaw clenched. Douglas Rhodes had always been a big man, but lately he seemed smaller. Older. The kind of old that happens when pride starts eating you from the inside. "Sit down, Gavin," he said without looking at me. The air in that room felt thick. Wrong. Like standing in the moment before lightning strikes. I pulled out a chair slowly, my eyes moving between the 3 of them. "So, what's this about?" My mother sat down across from me, folding her hands on the table like she was about to lead a prayer. "Your brother made a mistake." I laughed. Actually laughed. "A mistake. That's what we're calling it." Mason's jaw tightened. "Don't start. Don't start." I leaned back, crossing my arms. "I haven't even heard what happened yet, and you're already defensive. That's how I know this is bad." My father moved to the table and dropped a thick manila folder in front of me. The sound echoed through the room like a gunshot. "He owes $160,000, my father said flatly. "To a private lender. He has 1 week to pay it back, or things get very ugly." The room tilted. I stared at the folder, then at Mason, then back at my father. "You're joking." "Do I look like I'm joking?" My father's voice could have cut glass. Mason ran his hands through his hair, eyes on the table. "I just had a bad run, okay? It happens. I'll figure out." "A bad run," I repeated slowly. Like the bad run 2 years ago when you lost 30 grand? Or the bad run before that when Dad had to pay off your bookie? Gavin, please, my mother said softly. This isn't helpful. No. What's not helpful is pretending this is new. I stood up, heat rising in my chest. What's not helpful is acting like Mason's going to magically fix this when he never has before. My father stepped closer. That's exactly why we called you here. You have the resources. You've done well for yourself. It's time you stepped up for your family. The words hit me like a slap. Stepped up? I said quietly. You want me to pay his debt? You're his brother, my mother said, her voice cracking slightly. Family takes care of family. You've always been the one we could count on. I looked at each of them, really looked, and for the first time, I saw it clearly. This wasn't a request. This was an expectation. They'd already decided. In their minds, my money was already spent. No, I said. My father's face went dark. Excuse me? I said no. I'm not paying for this. What happened next would shatter everything I thought I knew about family. The silence after my no felt like standing at the edge of a cliff. My father's face went from red to purple. My mother's mouth opened, then closed. Mason just stared at his hands like they held answers he couldn't find anywhere else. You don't mean that, my father said finally, his voice dangerously quiet. I do. I stayed standing, keeping my voice level. I'm not paying Mason's gambling debt. My mother stood up quickly, her chair scraping against the hardwood. Gavin, please. You don't understand the situation. I understand perfectly. I looked at Mason. How long have you been gambling this time? 6 months? A year? He didn't answer. That's what I thought. I turned back to my parents. And you two knew, didn't you? You knew he was back at it, and you said nothing. Did nothing. Until the bill came due. My father slammed his hand on the table. The sound cracked through the room like a whip. Watch your tone. We raised you better than this. Something inside me snapped. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Just a quiet breaking, like ice cracking under weight. You raised me to fix Mason's problems, I said. That's what you raised me to do. Be responsible. Be dependable. Be the backup plan when your favorite son screws up. That's not fair, my mother whispered. Fair. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. When I started my business, you told me I'd fail. You said I was wasting my time. Dad told me I should get a real job, remember? Work for someone else. Play it safe. My father's jaw clenched. We were protecting you. No. You didn't believe in me. But I did it anyway. I built something from nothing, without a dime from either of you. And now that I've succeeded, now that I actually have money, suddenly I'm family again. Suddenly I matter. The words hung in the air like smoke. Mason finally looked up. Gav, come on. I know I messed up, but this is serious. These guys aren't playing around. If I don't pay, then you face the consequences, I interrupted. Like an adult. Like what should have happened the first time, or the second time, or any of the dozen times before this. My mother's eyes filled with tears. The sight of it used to break me. Used to make me fold, make me give in, make me be the good son who fixed everything. Not anymore. What do you want us to do? She asked, her voice trembling. Just let them hurt him? I want you to stop enabling him, I said. I want you to let him feel what it's like when actions have real consequences. Because every time you bail him out, every time you smooth things over, you teach him that nothing matters. That he can do whatever he wants and someone will always catch him. My father stepped closer, and for a second I thought he might actually hit me. You self-righteous little Douglas, my mother said sharply. He stopped, breathing hard through his nose. You will help your brother. You will do this because you are part of this family, and that's what families do. I shook my head slowly. No. That's what doormats do. And I'm done being yours. I walked toward the door, my heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. Behind me, my mother started crying harder. Mason said something I couldn't make out. My father's footsteps followed me. If you walk out that door, he called after me, Don't expect us to forget this. Don't expect us to just move on like nothing happened. I stopped with my hand on the doorknob. For just a second, I almost turned around. Almost apologized. Almost became the old Gavin who would have written the check just to keep the peace. Instead, I opened the door and walked out into the cold evening air. Behind me, I heard my father say something else, but I didn't catch it.
Didn't want to.
Because for the first time in my life, I'd chosen myself over them. And it felt terrifying and liberating all at once. Have you ever had to say no to family when everything in you wanted to say yes? 3 weeks of silence. 21 days without a single call, text, or email from anyone with my last name. At first, I checked my phone constantly, expecting an apology or another guilt trip. Something. But there was nothing. Just empty air where my family used to be. I threw myself into work, taking meetings I didn't need, staying late at the office, doing anything to avoid sitting alone with my thoughts. My business partner, Marcus, noticed. "You good?" he asked one afternoon, catching me staring at nothing in the conference room. "Yeah," I lied. "Just tired." He didn't push. That's why we worked well together. But the truth was I felt hollowed out. Like someone had scooped out everything familiar and left me holding the empty shell. I'd done the right thing. I knew I'd done the right thing. So why did it feel so wrong? Then on a Tuesday morning, my phone buzzed. A text from my mother. "Please. Mason's in real trouble. They're threatening him. He might lose everything. You can stop this." My hands shook as I read it. I could see her face as she typed it, tears probably streaming down her cheeks. Could hear my father pacing in the background, too proud to ask himself, but desperate enough to let her beg. I started typing a response 3 different times and deleted it each time. What was I supposed to say? That I was sorry? That I'd changed my mind? That family meant more than boundaries? I set the phone down and walked away. That afternoon, I met with an old college friend, Derek, who'd become a real estate agent. We were supposed to talk about investment properties, but halfway through lunch he said something that stopped me cold. "Actually, there's a property coming up you might be interested in. Off-market. Owner's behind on payments and wants to avoid foreclosure. Beautiful place. Oakmont Drive." My fork froze halfway to my mouth. Oakmont. Yeah, you know it? Fancy neighborhood, old money. House at the end of the street. Big white columns. Looks like something out of a magazine. My heart started hammering. What number? He checked his phone. 47 Oakmont Drive. Why? I set my fork down carefully. That's my parents' house. Derek's face went pale. "Oh man, I'm sorry. I had no idea. We can drop this."
No.
The word came out before I'd even finished thinking. "Tell me more." He hesitated, clearly uncomfortable. "Gav, I don't think."
Derek. Tell me.
He sighed and pulled out his tablet, sliding it across the table. "They're 3 months behind. Bank's ready to foreclose. They're trying to sell before it hits their credit, but the market's slow right now. Property's worth about $850, but they need to move fast. They'd probably take $750 cash." I stared at the listing. The same house I'd left 3 weeks ago. The same perfect facade. The same symbol of everything my parents valued more than me. "They're broke?" I said quietly. "Not broke, Derek said. But stretched thin. Looks like they've been living beyond their means for a while. This probably isn't the only debt they're carrying." My mind raced. All those years of lectures about responsibility, about living within your means, about not being like Mason, and they'd been drowning the whole time. "Can you get me a viewing?" I asked. "Gavin, come on. This is your family's. Can you, or can't you?" He looked at me for a long moment, then nodded slowly.
Yeah.
"I can set it up." I slid the tablet back.
Do it.
"And Derek, keep my name out of it." Walking back to my office, my mother's text burned in my pocket. Mason was in trouble. They were threatening him. He might lose everything. But what about them? What about the house they'd used as a weapon my whole life? The symbol of their success, their superiority, their proof that they'd done everything right? They were about to lose it. And suddenly, I had a choice to make. I could walk away. Let the bank take it. Watch from a distance as their perfect world crumbled. Or I could do something else. Something that scared and excited me in equal measure. I pulled out my phone and called my financial advisor. Hey Tom, it's Gavin. I need to talk to you about making a large cash purchase. What happens when the student becomes the teacher? The viewing was set for Thursday at 2 p.m. My parents wouldn't be there. Derek had arranged it as a standard showing, just another potential buyer walking through just another house. They had no idea I'd be the one coming. I parked down the street and waited in my car, watching the minutes tick by on my dashboard. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. I gripped the steering wheel tighter, trying to steady them. This was insane. I knew it was insane, but I couldn't stop. Derek pulled up at 2 on the dot. I got out and met him at the driveway, and he gave me a look that said he still thought this was a terrible idea. Last chance to back out, he said. Open the door. The house felt different, empty. Smaller somehow. Or maybe I was just bigger now. Older. Less impressed by white columns and expensive furniture. We walked through room after room, and with each step, memories hit me like punches. The living room where my father told me business school was a waste of time. The kitchen where my mother said I was selfish for wanting to start my own company. The dining room where they'd asked me to sacrifice everything for Mason. Master bedrooms upstairs, Derek said, his voice echoing in the empty space. 3 more bedrooms. 4 full baths. Updated kitchen. The works. I wasn't really listening. I was standing in the hallway, staring at a patch of wall where a family photo used to hang. We'd taken it when I was 16. Mason was 18. We were both smiling, but even then you could see it. The difference in how our parents looked at us. Mason with pride. Me with expectation. What are you thinking? Derek asked. I turned to face him. I want to make an offer. Gavin. $750.
Cash.
Close in 2 weeks. He ran his hand over his face. Man, I don't know about this. When they find out it's you, they won't. Not until after closing. Use an LLC. Keep everything anonymous until the papers are signed. Derek was quiet for a long moment. You're really doing this? It wasn't a question. Yeah, I said. I really am. We went back to his office and I signed the paperwork. The earnest money. The disclosures. Page after page of legal documents that all said the same thing. I was buying my childhood home out from under my parents. And I didn't feel guilty. I felt powerful. 2 days later, Derek called. Offer accepted. They jumped at it. Signed everything this morning. Closing set for the 20th. I hung up and sat in my office, staring out the window at the city below. Somewhere out there, my parents were celebrating. Thinking they'd been saved by some anonymous investor. Thinking they'd dodged disaster. They had no idea. The next 2 weeks crawled by like months. I went through the motions at work, but my mind was always somewhere else. On closing day. On the moment they'd find out. On what I'd say when they called. Because they would call. And this time, I'd have all the power. Closing day came on a rainy Thursday. I sat in the title company's conference room, signing document after document while rain hammered against the windows. The title officer, a woman named Patricia with kind eyes, kept giving me strange looks. Big day, she said as I signed the final page. You have no idea. She slid a set of keys across the table. Congratulations, Mr. Rhodes. You're now the proud owner of 47 Oakmont Drive. I picked up the keys. They were heavier than I expected. Cold. Real. I'd done it. I'd actually done it. Walking out of that office, keys in my pocket, I felt something shift inside my chest. Like a weight I'd been carrying for years had finally rolled off my shoulders. My phone rang before I even got to my car. It was my father. I stared at his name on the screen, heart pounding. He didn't know yet. Couldn't know. The paperwork wouldn't reach them until tomorrow. Unless. I answered. Hello. Gavin. His voice was tight. Controlled. We need to talk. My stomach dropped. About what? The bank called. They said the house sold. Cash offer. Do you know anything about that? I stopped walking. Rain soaked through my jacket. Maybe. Silence. Long and heavy. Then, was it you? I could lie. Should lie.
Give myself more time.
But something in me was done hiding. Yes. The sound he made wasn't quite a gasp, wasn't quite a shout. Just this strangled noise that sounded like something breaking. Why would you do that? His voice cracked. That's our home, Gavin. Our home. And for the first time in my life, I didn't flinch at his anger. You told me family takes care of family, I said quietly. So I took care of business. What I said next would change everything forever. My father's breathing was ragged on the other end of the line. You bought our house, he said slowly, like he was testing the words to see if they were real. You actually bought our house. I did. A sound in the background. My mother's voice, high and panicked. Douglas? What's happening? Who is that? I heard him say my name, heard her gasp, then the phone got muffled like he'd covered it with his hand. Angry whispers. My mother's voice rising. Then my father again, clearer now, and absolutely furious. This is about Mason, isn't it? About us asking you to help? You're punishing us. No, I said, surprisingly calm. I'm teaching you something you should have learned a long time ago. Teaching us? He laughed, but it sounded more like choking. You arrogant. Accountability, I interrupted. I'm teaching you accountability. We're your parents, Gavin, and I'm your son. The words exploded out of me. Your son who you only call when you need something. Your son who wasn't good enough until he had money. Your son who you've been using as a backup plan his entire life. Rain pounded harder. I was standing in the parking lot, phone pressed to my ear, saying everything I'd swallowed for 32 years. You told me I owed you. I continued. That I owed this family everything I have. But you never invested in me. Never believed in me. Never even liked me as much as Mason. So no, I don't owe you anything. And buying that house? That's not punishment. That's business. Business. My mother's voice now. She'd grabbed the phone. Gavin, sweetheart, please. We can fix this. We can. Where are you going to go? I asked. She stopped mid-sentence. You have 30 days, I said. That's standard. 30 days to find somewhere else to live. Gavin, please. I'm not kicking you out to be cruel, I said. I'm just not saving you anymore. Figure it out. Like you made Mason figure it out. Like you told me to figure it out when I started my business. This is different, my father shouted in the background. No, I said. It's exactly the same. I hung up before either of them could respond. My hands were shaking again, but this time it felt different. Not fear. Not guilt. Just adrenaline. Pure, electric adrenaline. I sat in my car and let the rain drum against the roof. My phone started ringing immediately. My mother. I declined. It rang again. My father. Declined. Then texts started flooding in. Mom. We raised you better than this. Dad. You're making the biggest mistake of your life. Mom. How can you do this to your own family? Mason. WTF did you do? I put my phone on silent and drove. Not home. Not to the office. I drove to Oakmont Drive. To my house. I parked across the street and just looked at it. The rain made everything blurry, but I could still see the shape of it. The columns. The perfect lawn. The windows that glowed warm from inside. My parents were in there right now. Probably pacing. Probably crying. Probably trying to figure out how their responsible son had betrayed them. But I hadn't betrayed them. I'd just stopped letting them use me. A light turned on in the upstairs window. The master bedroom. I saw a shadow move across the curtain. My mother probably. She always went upstairs when she was upset. My phone buzzed with another call. This time it was Derek. Hey, I answered. Dude, he said. Your family's blowing up my phone. Your dad's threatening to sue. Your mom's crying. What the hell happened? They found out. Yeah, no kidding. Your dad called me a snake. Said I betrayed their trust. I had to remind him I work for my clients, not for sellers. I'm sorry you got dragged into this. Are you though? Derek asked. Because from where I'm sitting, you knew exactly what would happen. He was right. I had known. And I'd done it anyway. Listen, Derek said, his voice softer now. I'm not judging. I don't know your family or what went down. But man, be sure about this. Because you can't undo it. Once this gets out, and it will get out, everyone's going to have an opinion. Let them. We hung up, and I sat there until the rain stopped. Until the lights in the house went off one by one. Until there was nothing but darkness and the sound of my own breathing. Then I drove home. That night, I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw my mother's face, heard my father's voice, felt the weight of what I'd done pressing down on my chest like concrete. But I didn't regret it. Not even close. Morning came gray and cold. I made coffee and sat at my kitchen table, staring at my phone. 43 missed calls. 62 texts. Even a voicemail from Mason that just said, "Call me back," in a voice I'd never heard from him before. Scared. He sounded scared. I didn't call back. Instead, I called my lawyer. "I need you to draft something for me." "What kind of something?" "A rental agreement," I said. "Standard terms. Month-to-month lease. Market rate." She was quiet for a second. "For my parents." Another pause. Longer this time. "Gavin, I'm going to need context here." I explained everything. The gambling debt. The dinner. The house purchase. All of it. When I finished, she let out a long breath.
Wow. Okay.
"So you want to offer them the chance to rent from you?" "Yes." "You know they'll see this as an insult." "Probably. And you're doing it anyway?" "Yes." "All right then," she said. "Give me till end of day." The agreement came through at 6 p.m. clean. Professional. Everything spelled out clearly. Rent due on the 1st. No special treatment. No family discount. Just business. I printed it out and put it in an envelope. Tomorrow, I'd deliver it myself. And then we'd see who my parents really were. The envelope felt like fire in my hands. I sat in my car outside 47 Oakmont Drive, staring at the house that was now legally mine. The morning sun hit the white columns just right, making them glow like something out of a painting. Beautiful. Perfect. Empty. Just like everything my parents had built. I'd been sitting here for 20 minutes, engine off, heat fading, trying to find the courage to walk up to that door. The rental agreement sat on my passenger seat, crisp and official. Black ink on white paper. Terms and conditions. Reality in document form. My phone buzzed. "Mason, we need to talk," the text said. I ignored it. Another buzz.
My mother this time. Please don't do this.
"We can work something out." I put the phone face down. The front door opened, and my father stepped out. He wasn't dressed in his usual pressed shirt and slacks. Just jeans and an old sweater I remembered from years ago. He looked smaller somehow.
Tired.
He walked to the mailbox, grabbed a few envelopes, then stopped.
He saw my car.
Our eyes met across the lawn, and for a moment, neither of us moved. Just two men staring at each other over a distance that felt like miles. Then he turned and walked back inside without a word. That did it. I grabbed the envelope and got out of the car. My legs felt shaky, but I forced them forward. Up the driveway. Past the perfectly trimmed hedges. To the door I'd walked through 1,000 times but never as the owner. I knocked. My mother answered. Her face was bare of makeup, eyes red and puffy. She looked older than I'd ever seen her. She stared at me like I was a stranger. "What do you want?" she whispered. "To talk." "I think you've said enough." "Mom, please. Just 5 minutes." She didn't move. Behind her, I could see boxes. They'd already started packing. My father appeared behind her. "Let him in, Lorraine." She stepped aside reluctantly, and I walked into a house that felt nothing like home anymore. The walls were bare. Pictures taken down. The dining table where we'd had our last meal together was covered in newspaper and tape. "You work fast," I said. "We don't have a choice, do we?" my father said bitterly. 30 days. That's what you gave us. I held up the envelope. "Actually, that's why I'm here." My mother's face twisted with something between hope and disgust. If that's a check. It's not. I set it on the table. It's a rental agreement. Silence. My father picked it up slowly, his hands trembling. He read it.
Once. Twice.
Then looked at me like I'd just spit in his face. You want us to rent our own house from you? It's not your house anymore, I said quietly. It's mine.
But yes.
You can stay if you want. Market rate. Standard lease terms. Everything's in there. My mother made a sound like something breaking. You can't be serious. I'm completely serious. This is cruel, she said, tears spilling over. You're being cruel, Gavin.
No.
I'm being fair. You need a place to live. I own a house. This is business. My father threw the papers on the floor. Business? This is your family. Then act like it. The words exploded out of me. Act like I'm your son and not your ATM. Act like Mason's actions have consequences. Act like anything you've built matters more than how it looks. The room went dead silent. I picked up the papers and set them back on the table. You have 3 options. Take the rental agreement. Find somewhere else. Or keep pretending this isn't happening and let the sheriff remove you in 30 days. Your choice. My mother collapsed into a chair, sobbing. My father just stood there, fists clenched, jaw working like he was chewing glass. Why are you doing this? He asked finally. Because you taught me to, I said. You taught me that family means obligation. That success means control. That money equals power. I'm just applying your lessons. We never taught you to be vindictive.
No.
You taught me to be invisible, to fix things quietly and never expect credit, to be the backup plan. But I'm done being that person. I walked toward the door, then stopped. The offer's good for 48 hours. After that, you're on your own. Behind me, my mother's crying got louder. My father said something under his breath I couldn't hear. I walked out and didn't look back. Driving away, my hands wouldn't stop shaking. I'd done it. Actually done it. Looked them in the eye and refused to break. And it felt horrible and amazing at the same time. That night, I couldn't eat. Couldn't work. Just paced my apartment like a caged animal, waiting for something I couldn't name. Then my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. Hello. Gavin Rhodes. A woman's voice. Professional.
Cold.
Yes. This is Patricia Chun from Morrison and Associates. We represent Douglas and Lorraine Rhodes. We're calling to inform you that our clients reject your rental proposal and demand you reverse the sale of their property immediately, or will pursue legal action for. I hung up. They'd hired a lawyer. Of course they had. My phone rang again. Same number. I sent it to voicemail. Then a text from Mason. You've gone too far. Fix this. Another from my mother. How did I raise such a heartless son? One from my father. You're dead to us. I read that last one 3 times. Dead to us. For words that should have hurt more than they did. I set my phone down and walked to my window. The city stretched out below me, lights twinkling like stars that had fallen to earth. Somewhere out there, my parents were probably celebrating their lawyer, thinking they'd found a way out, thinking they'd win. They wouldn't, because for the first time in my life, I wasn't the one who needed saving. They were. Would you stand your ground even if it cost you everything? The lawyer's letter arrived 2 days later. Certified mail. Official letterhead. 6 pages of legal language that all said the same thing. Give us back the house or we'll sue you into oblivion. I read it at my kitchen table over cold coffee and forwarded it to my attorney without comment. She called me within the hour. They don't have a case, she said. The sale was legal. Everything was done by the book. This is just intimidation. So, ignore it? I'll respond professionally and shut it down. But Gavin? This is going to get uglier before it gets better. Family lawsuits always do. She was right. By the end of the week, my phone had become a weapon. Texts from relatives I hadn't spoken to in years. Cousins. Aunts. Even my grandmother called, her voice thin and disappointed. Your father says you stole their house, she said.
I bought it, Grandma.
Legally. Family doesn't do that to family. Then maybe they should have remembered I was family when they needed me. She hung up without saying goodbye. The social media posts started next. Nothing with my name directly, but close enough. My mother's friends sharing vague posts about ungrateful children and betrayal. My father's golf buddies unfriending me. I watched my social circle shrink in real time. Marcus noticed at work. Everything okay? You seem distracted. Family stuff, I said. He nodded. The gambling thing? I told him the basics weeks ago. It evolved. Evolved how? I hesitated, then told him everything.
The house.
The rental agreement. The lawyer. All of it. When I finished, he let out a long whistle.
Man.
That's heavy. You think I'm wrong? He leaned back in his chair, thinking. I think you're hurt. And hurt people sometimes do extreme things. But wrong? I don't know. They put you in an impossible position. So you get it? I get why you did it. Whether it's right. He shrugged. That's between you and your conscience. That night I drove past Oakmont Drive again. I couldn't help myself. The moving truck was there now, parked in the driveway. Men carrying boxes. Furniture wrapped in blankets. My parents stood on the porch, my mother's arms wrapped around herself, my father directing traffic with sharp hand gestures. They were really leaving. Actually leaving. I expected to feel satisfied. Victorious. Something. Instead, I just felt empty. I drove away before they could see me. The house sold their stuff fast. Estate sale. Everything must go. I heard about it through Derek, who heard it from another agent. They were liquidating. Downsizing. Moving into a 2-bedroom rental across town. From a mansion to an apartment in 3 weeks.
Part of me wanted to feel bad about that.
Part of me couldn't. Then Mason called. Actually called, not texted. I stared at his name on my screen for 3 rings before answering.
What?
Don't hang up, he said quickly.
Please.
Just listen. I'm listening. Heavy breathing. The sound of wind. He was outside somewhere. I'm at a meeting, he said finally. Gamblers Anonymous. 3 times a week. I've been going for 2 weeks now. I didn't respond. I know you don't believe me, he continued. I wouldn't believe me either. But I'm trying, Gav. Actually trying this time. Good for you. I'm serious. I'm not asking for money. I'm not asking for help. I just wanted you to know. Why? Because you were right. His voice cracked. About all of it.
About me.
About Mom and Dad. About everything. I've been thinking about what you said at dinner. About consequences. About facing things. I pulled over to the side of the road. You're really in GA?
Yeah.
My sponsor's name is Robert. He's been clean for 8 years. He says I have to own what I did. I can't blame anyone else. Can't make excuses. Just own it and move forward. That's good, Mason. Really? The debt's still there, he said quietly. I'm working it off.
Got a second job. It'll take years, but I'll pay it.
Every cent. Something in my chest loosened. Just a little. I'm proud of you, I said, and meant it.
Yeah, well.
You kicked my ass hard enough that I finally woke up. So thanks. I think. We talked for another 10 minutes.
Carefully.
Like 2 people learning to speak the same language after years of miscommunication. When we hung up, I sat in my car and cried. Not sad tears. Not happy ones. Just release. 2 days later, I drove to the house. My house. Empty now except for echoes. I walked through every room slowly. The living room where I'd played as a kid. The kitchen where I'd done homework. The bedroom where I'd dreamed of escape. It all felt different now.
Smaller.
Less important. Just a house. In the master bedroom, I found something they'd left behind. A photo album.
Old. Worn.
I opened it and saw us. All of us. Before everything got complicated. Before money and expectations and disappointment.
Just a family.
I took the album with me when I left. That night I made a decision. Tomorrow, I'd list the house for sale. Not because I was giving up. Not because I regretted it. but because I'd proven my point, and holding on to it wouldn't change anything. What's worth more, being right or being free? The for sale sign went up on a gray Monday morning. I wasn't there to see it, but Derek sent me a photo. The sign looked stark against the white columns. Final. Like a period at the end of a sentence I'd been writing for months. My phone stayed quiet all morning. Then, just after lunch, my mother called. I almost didn't answer. Hello. You're selling it. Not a question. A statement. Her voice sounded hollow. Yes. Why? I looked out my office window at the city below. Because I don't need it anymore. You never needed it. You just wanted to hurt us.
No, Mom.
I wanted you to see me. Really see me. Not as the backup plan. Not as the solution to Mason's problems. Just as your son. Silence on the line. Then, quietly. We always saw you, Gavin.
Did you?
Because from where I stood, you only looked at me when you needed something. More silence. I could hear her breathing. Could picture her in whatever small apartment they'd moved into, surrounded by boxes, pride still keeping her spine straight. Your father had a heart attack, she said suddenly. My world tilted. What? Last week. Minor. He's okay. But the stress. She trailed off. Guilt slammed into me like a truck. Mom, I didn't. I'm not blaming you, she interrupted. I'm just telling you. Because you're still my son, and you deserve to know. Is he in the hospital?
He was.
They released him yesterday. He's home now, resting. I closed my eyes. I'm sorry. Are you? Her voice wasn't angry.
Just tired.
I can't tell anymore what you feel about any of us. I never wanted Dad to get hurt.
No.
You just wanted us to hurt differently. The truth of that hit hard. Can I see him? I asked. I don't know if he wants to see you, but I'll ask. She hung up without saying goodbye. I sat at my desk for an hour, not moving. My assistant came in twice and left when she saw my face. Marcus texted asking if I was okay. I didn't respond. My father had a heart attack. Because of stress. Stress I'd caused. That night I couldn't sleep. Just laid in bed staring at the ceiling, running through every choice I'd made. Every word I'd said. Every moment I'd chosen pride over peace. Had I gone too far? The question ate at me until dawn. At 6 a.m., I got in my car and drove. Not to the house. To the address my mother had given me months ago when they first moved. A small complex on the east side. 2 stories.
Brick.
Nothing like Oakmont Drive. I parked and stared at Building C, Unit 12. Their new home. Then I got out and knocked. My mother answered in her bathrobe, hair gray and loose. She looked shocked to see me. Gavin, can I come in? She hesitated, then stepped aside. The apartment was tiny. Maybe 1,000 square feet. The furniture from their old house looked ridiculous here, too big for the space. My father sat in his recliner by the window, thinner than I remembered, an oxygen tube in his nose. He looked up when I walked in. Our eyes met. I'll give you 2 some privacy, my mother said, disappearing into the bedroom. I sat on the couch across from him. Neither of us spoke for a long moment. You look terrible, he said finally. You look worse. A small smile. Doctor says I need to reduce stress. I heard. So you came to gloat?
No.
I came to. I stopped. Why had I come? I came to see if you're okay. He laughed, but it turned into a cough. Do I look okay?
No.
He adjusted his oxygen tube. The heart attack was a wake-up call. Made me think about things. About what matters. About what doesn't. And I realized I've been an idiot. He looked at me directly. About a lot of things. But mostly about you. I wasn't expecting that. I spent your whole life comparing you to Mason, he continued. Wondering why you couldn't be more like him. More charming. More easygoing. But you know what I see now. I shook my head. Mason's charm never built anything real. But your stubbornness? Your discipline? You built an empire. And I was too proud to admit I was wrong about you. My throat tightened. I'm not saying what you did was right, he said. Buying the house, the rental agreement, all of it. That was cruel. But I understand why you did it. We pushed you there. We made you feel like you didn't matter unless you were useful. Dad. Let me finish. He took a shaky breath. I'm sorry. For all of it. For not believing in you. For always putting Mason first. For making you feel like the backup plan. You deserved better. You deserved parents who saw your worth before you had to prove it. I couldn't speak. Couldn't move. Could barely breathe. I don't expect you to forgive me, he said. But I needed you to know. Before. He gestured vaguely at his oxygen tank. Don't say that, I said roughly. You're going to be fine. Maybe. Maybe not. Either way, I wanted to clear the air. My mother appeared in the doorway, tears streaming down her face. I'm sorry too, she whispered. For everything. For putting you in that position with Mason. For not protecting you the way I protected him. For being so worried about appearances that I forgot to care about how you felt. Something inside me broke open. I stood up and crossed the room and hugged her. Really hugged her. The way I hadn't since I was a kid. She cried into my shoulder, and I let her. My father watched from his chair, eyes wet. I'm selling the house, I said when we finally pulled apart. And I'm giving you the money. They both stared at me. What? My mother gasped. Not all of it, I clarified. But enough. Enough to get you back on your feet. Enough to pay off your debts. Enough to start over without drowning. My father shook his head. We can't accept that. Yes, you can. Because that's what family does. They help. Even when it's hard. Even when pride gets in the way. Can you forgive the people who hurt you most? The house sold in 3 weeks. Multiple offers. Bidding war. It went for $900,000, $50,000 more than I'd paid. I signed the papers in the same title office where I'd bought it 6 months earlier. This time felt different. The money hit my account on a Friday. I immediately transferred $200,000 to my parents. Enough to cover their debts, first and last on a better apartment, and a cushion for my father's medical bills. They didn't call when they received it. But my mother texted, "Thank you. We don't deserve this." I replied, "Nobody deserves anything. We just choose what kind of people we want to be." She sent back a heart emoji. That weekend, Mason showed up at my apartment. I hadn't invited him, but when I opened the door, he was standing there with 2 coffees and a nervous smile. "Can we talk?" he asked. I let him in. We sat on my balcony, looking out at the city. The silence between us felt different now. Less hostile. More uncertain. Like 2 strangers trying to remember how to be brothers. "I'm 90 days sober from gambling," he said finally. 3 months. That's great, Mason. It's hard. Like, really hard. Every day I want to place a bet. Every day I have to choose not to. Robert says it gets easier, but I don't know if I believe him. It will, I said. If you keep choosing right. He nodded, staring at his coffee. I heard what you did. For Mom and Dad. With the money from the house.
Yeah.
That was good of you. After everything. They're still my parents. They don't deserve you. He looked at me. None of us did. I spent years thinking you were just the boring brother. The one who never took risks. Never had fun. But really? You were just the only adult in the family. I didn't know what to say to that. I'm paying back my debt, he continued. All of it. It'll take me 4 years at this rate, but I'm doing it. No help. No shortcuts. Just me and 2 jobs and showing up every day. I'm proud of you.
Yeah, well.
I'm trying to be someone you can be proud of. Finally. We talked for 2 hours. About everything. About our childhood. About the ways our parents had failed us differently. About the men we'd become and the men we wanted to be. When he left, he hugged me. A real hug. Not the awkward backpat thing we'd done for years. A real, actual hug. Love you, bro, he said. Love you too. After he left, I stood on my balcony and watched the sun set over the city. For the first time in months, I felt something like peace. The following week, my parents invited me to dinner. Their new place. Nothing fancy, my mother said. Just family. I almost said no. Old habits. Old wounds. But I went. The apartment looked different. They'd arranged the furniture better, added some plants, made it feel like a home instead of a prison. My father looked better too. Color in his face. Moving without the oxygen tank. Doctor cleared me, he said when he saw me looking. Said whatever stress I was carrying, I must have let it go. Dinner was simple. Roasted chicken. Vegetables. Nothing like the elaborate meals my mother used to make when appearances mattered more than taste. It was perfect.
We talked about small things.
My father's physical therapy. Mason's progress. My business expansion plans. Nobody mentioned the house. Nobody mentioned the past 6 months. Not until dessert. I've been thinking, my father said, setting down his fork. About legacy. About what we leave behind. My mother reached for his hand. I always thought legacy was money, he continued. Property. Things people could see and measure. But laying in that hospital bed, I realized something. Legacy is how you make people feel. How you treat them. Whether they're better for having known you.
He looked at me.
And by that measure, I failed. I made you feel small when I should have made you feel valued. I taught you that love was conditional when it should have been constant. Dad. Let me finish. He smiled. You taught me something these past few months. You taught me that accountability isn't punishment. It's respect. You respected me enough to let me face consequences. To let me learn. Even when it hurt. My mother was crying again, but smiling too.
So thank you, he said.
For being the man I should have taught you to be. For becoming that man despite me, not because of me. I couldn't speak, just nodded. We finished dessert in comfortable silence. Then my mother brought out the photo album, the one I'd taken from the empty house. You forgot to give this back, she said, setting it on the table. I opened it.
Us. Young. Happy.
Before everything got complicated. I want you to keep it, she said. But I was hoping we could add to it. New memories. Better ones. I looked at both of them. My imperfect parents. My flawed family. My family. I'd like that, I said. We spent the rest of the evening looking at old photos and talking about new traditions. Things we could start. Ways we could be better. When I left that night, my father walked me to my car. Thank you for coming, he said. And thank you for not giving up on us. Even when we gave you every reason to. You're my dad, I said simply. I can be angry and still love you. Both things can be true. He hugged me, long and tight. I'm glad both things are true, he whispered. Driving home, I thought about justice. About revenge. About the difference between the two. Revenge is about making someone hurt as much as you hurt. Justice is about making things right, even when right is hard. I'd started this journey, wanting revenge. Ended it finding justice. And that made all the difference. Have you ever found peace in the place that once broke you? 6 months later, I drove past Oakmont Drive one last time. A new family lived there now. I could see kids' bikes in the driveway. A swing set in the backyard. Lights on in every window. The house looked happy. Lived in. Loved. It didn't hurt to see it anymore. I'd let it go. Really let it go. Not just the property. The anger. The resentment. The need to prove something. All of it. My phone buzzed. A text from Mason. Dinner Sunday? Bringing my sponsor. Want you to meet him. I smiled and replied, I'll be there. Another text. This time my mother. Your father and I booked a trip to Seattle next month. Would love if you could join us for a few days. Let me check my schedule. I wrote back. I would make it work.
I always would now.
The business was thriving. I'd promoted Marcus to partner. We'd opened a second office. Hired 20 new people. Everything I'd built while my family fell apart had become something bigger than I'd imagined. But the success felt different now. Less like armor. More like accomplishment. I'd stopped measuring my worth by how much I could do without them. Started measuring it by how much I could do with them. That Sunday, we all met at a small Italian restaurant downtown. Mason and his sponsor Robert. My parents.
Me.
Just family. Imperfect. Healing.
Trying.
Robert turned out to be this older guy with kind eyes and a firm handshake. He told stories about Mason's progress, about the work he was doing, about the man he was becoming. My parents listened with tears in their eyes.
Pride.
Real pride. Not the performative kind. Mason looked embarrassed but happy. Your brother talks about you a lot, Robert said to me. Says you saved his life. I didn't save anything, I said. I just stopped enabling. Sometimes that's the same thing. After dinner, we walked through downtown together.
Slow. Easy.
Like people who had nowhere to be but with each other. My father walked next to me. How's business?
Good.
Really good. I'd love to hear about it sometime, if you want to share.
It was such a small thing. Such a simple request.
But coming from him, it meant everything.
Yeah, Dad. I'd like that. We stopped at a park bench.
The city lights sparkled around us. My mother and Mason were laughing about something. Robert was telling some story with his hands. My father sat down heavily. You know what the hardest part of getting older is?
What?
Realizing you were wrong about almost everything. He smiled, but also realizing it's not too late to change. It's never too late, I said. I hope that's true. I hope we have time to get this right, to be the family we should have been, all along.
We do, I said.
We have right now. That's enough. He nodded. Right now is enough. Later, driving home, I thought about everything that had happened. The phone call, the dinner,
The debt.
the house, the anger, the forgiveness. All of it. People always say blood is thicker than water, but that's not the full quote. The actual saying is, the blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb. Meaning the bonds we choose are stronger than the ones we're born into. I'd chosen to walk away from my family, then chosen to walk back. Both choices were mine. Both were valid. Both were necessary. Because sometimes love means leaving until people learn your worth. And sometimes love means coming back after they do. My family wasn't perfect. Would never be perfect. We'd hurt each other. Failed each other. Disappointed each other in ways that left scars. But we'd also chosen each other. Again. Despite everything. And that choice? That was everything. I pulled into my parking garage and sat for a moment in the quiet. My phone lit up with a text from my mother. Just a photo. All of us from tonight.
Smiling.
Together. She'd captioned it. New memories. I saved it and set it as my wallpaper. Tomorrow I'd wake up and go to work. Build my business. Live my life.
See my family.
Not because I had to.
Because I wanted to.
The quiet justice I'd sought wasn't loud or dramatic. Wasn't revenge or vindication. It was this.
Peace.
Boundaries. Love on my own terms. It was freedom. And freedom, I'd learned, was the sweetest victory of all. Sometimes the house you lose is the home you gain. Sometimes walking away is how you learn to come back. Sometimes justice isn't loud. It's the quiet moment when you realize you don't need to prove anything anymore. You're enough. You've always been enough. And the people who matter will see it, eventually. If they don't, that's okay too. Because you'll see it. And that's the only vision that really matters. Thanks for joining me on this journey. If this story moved you, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next powerful story about love, justice, and finding yourself. Drop a comment below about a time you had to choose yourself over family expectations. Your story might inspire someone else who needs to hear it. Remember, quiet justice isn't about revenge. It's about reclaiming your peace. See you in the next one.